You can drink your gin now.
I've been drinking my gin all the way through.
Hey party people, I've 12 here and welcome to the 8th Suburban Gooner Podcast. Sorry we've been away the last couple of weeks. My laptop's been to the laptop doctors, but it's all sorted now. As before, you'll find us on iTunes, and we've also opened our YouTube channel, which will be up and running very soon. Just need to update a couple of things. We haven't got Chris with us tonight because he's busy brushing his teeth or washing his hair, something like that. But we do have Ben, and we do have Paul from Invinciblog, who... every time he comes on so far, last time Spurs lost 6-0, and today they lost 5-0. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yep, good, thank you, Ben.
All good, yeah. So I was just laughing at Chris cleaning his teeth.
Can you see him? Where are you, Ben? Can you see him cleaning his teeth?
Yeah, I'm outside his window. I could get arrested, but I'll get down.
I'm laughing at the laptop. The Rory the laptop thing came to mind. I don't know why. The long throw. Take your laptop and give it a long throw.
It's nice that we're all laughing. I think the Spuds result today probably helped us after yesterday's result because I'm sure you both weren't laughing yesterday after the 6-3. Did you watch it, Paul?
I did, absolutely. I've managed to somehow, even while living in the States, I think I've pretty much watched every game live on TV for maybe the last 5 or 6 years, which is a mission, because sometimes when I was in Hawaii, it was like 3 a.m. It takes some Muppet conviction to do that,
Did you watch it, Ben?
Yeah, I watched it. Unfortunately, I am I kind of felt that we were going to lose, so I was wrapping Christmas presents as I was watching the game. From obviously the last couple of results we've had, I was a bit sort of nervous going in. I was calm. I usually get quite jittery, but I was quite calm. And sort of sitting and watching it and having Wilshere on the left, Monreal behind him, I was just watching it. I wasn't happy, and it just wasn't great, was it? So many individual errors, something we've cut out in the last... from the end of last season, wasn't it? We sort of cut them out completely, but there just seemed to be so many misplaced passes every time we got the ball, and then our defending was just not there. I can't even remember someone, apart from our goal, someone tackling Yaya Toure. He was just, he was unplayable on the day, wasn't he? No one could get near him, and it makes you... obviously, it's very reactionary, but you instant things. We need someone like that in our midfield. But no, you shouldn't say things like that. I just say silly things when we lose because I'm a football fan.
Yeah, it is difficult, isn't it, to control the emotions. After somebody did tweet afterwards, actually, if you could take one player from their team, who would it be? And I think I replied saying I would usually say Toure, but with our abundance of midfielders at the moment, I'd probably have to say either Aguero or Negredo.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about the selection? Did you think it was right? Did you feel happy with it before the game?
You want to take that, Paul?
Yeah, sure. I was a little bit surprised that he didn't go for the Arteta Flamini kind of the duo at the back, because I think we've been really solid for our attacking options going forward when we've got them. But I'm not sure if there was any, I don't know why Arteta didn't play. And actually, I'm surprised. Actually, at halftime, I was, saying to my brother, I was watching with him, I was like, then they need to take off Wilshere and put on Arteta or something. It was all out of kilter. There was this huge gap, and they just exploited it really brilliantly. I mean, they've got such quick attackers, they really are. They're very well slick attacking machine. I mean, it was great to watch. Yeah, very fluid. I mean, we fluid around the midfield, but they're fluid in that attacking third, and that's just we've got a couple of players that do what most of their players do. We've talked about it before. Rosicky, the guys that have that drive, if they move forward, well, they've got those in droves,
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of surprised me. And then, you mentioned earlier the Monreal Wilshire thing, and I think Wilshire being on the left, it didn't work. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I was very surprised with the double pivot. I think I've, said before, against the smaller teams, I don't really probably want to see Flamini and Arteta in the same side, but against a team as strong as them, I think it's definitely a positive to have. And we're talking about misplaced passes and not getting our passing game together, and we've got Arteta sitting on the bench, and it's kind of it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing that really, so that's the team selection, but the substitutions as well, they were really quite baffling. How you can have Cazorla, Rosicky, and Arteta left on the bench, yet you have Gnabry and Bentner coming on.
Yeah,
I found that very strange.
I wasn't so with the Gnabry. I was quite pleased with that coming on because it would give us width. It was when Aguero was going off injured. I was hoping he was going to bring on Dzeko because that would have ruined their shape. But unfortunately, he brought Navas, who kept their shape, and he put him on the side where Wilshire and Monreal was, and he killed us instantly. As soon as he came on, he overlapped, and it was like, oh my god, it's going to happen. And then 2 minutes later, they went and scored. Overlap, cut it back, and it was straight in the net from, he caught, what was it, Mertesacker napping, Silva nipped in and flicked it into the back of the net. But I don't know. Every time in the last, obviously, 3, because the results haven't been great, I've watched the sort of midfield and thought, I'd like to see that person in there after the game's finished.
Yeah.
Do you think he knows his best team?
No.
I think I would hate to be in his shoes right now because he should have a really golden problem, with Wilshire and Cazorla and Ozil and Rosicky and all. But Cazorla has been kind of a liability for the last couple of games for me. He hasn't really ever come close to the form he had last season. Wilshire has kind of become a little bit Walcottian. He's either there or he's totally not there, and I'm not sure if that's a fitness thing. So, Rosicky's consistent, but he's also, he played the Napoli game and he's getting on. So I think that, that's possibly why he was rested.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that's, that Wenger had as many choices as he would have liked, because actually some of the obvious choices haven't really panned out, in the last few games.
I think with Cazorla, I agree, and it's kind of, he's been moved out wide, hasn't he, because of Ozil? But there's been times where Ozil's looked quite tired, and you think, we'll give him a rest and maybe chuck Cazorla in the middle, and he hasn't done that yet.
No.
And I think maybe against a couple of the smaller teams, he should really take the opportunity to get Cazorla in the middle, get him back into some sort of form, and give Ozil a bit of a rest.
That's a very good call.
But what's also interesting is that we always knew that, when Ramsey, at the start of the season, when he found that kind of attacking form and he was starting to score, I think that, in the same way that Theo, when he decided he was a striker and he started neglecting, his right wing, his duties, defending and attacking from the right, which he's really brilliant at. Ramsey's kind of done the same. I think he's teetering into, kind of neglecting that central midfielder kind of role that he was playing, and I think he tends to go forward too much now, and I don't know if it's that kind of hunger to keep the goal tally rising. But there's some little things that have kind of crept into how he started, the season. There's some niggling little things coming in that I think are a little bit of a worry. But I think it's up to Wenger to kind of lay down the law and or select people that can actually do the job that he's asking of them.
Hopefully this will be a bit of a kick for them.
We'd like to see, but it's interesting you say that, Paul, because he was interviewed, Arsenal, this is a little while back, and he said he doesn't want the goal scoring burden to be too heavy on someone's shoulders. And he obviously meant Ramsey, and as you said, we can see that now. But in all the big games, I don't know if Ramsey's positionally ready to play in that deep role, if that makes sense. Because when we against Everton, I was behind our goal, and I could see when Flamini came on with Arteta, and he had this like imaginary lead that he had him on, and he was shouting, hollering him to get him to stay in line. But against City, Ramsey just was nowhere to be seen. But then Flamini just, because nothing was happening in front of him, he was just running off as well. So at points we had like no one.
Yeah, there was no one.
They were just running through us. But I don't. My personal favourite team was the game against Napoli, where we had those two definite sitters in Arteta and Flamini. Granted that no one can they struggle getting the ball forward, don't they, from that position? But you have Ramsey and Ozil dropping to come and collect the ball. So I don't know, just for sort of security reasons, I wouldn't mind him going back to that to shore up the team, get the confidence back, and try and get us back winning again. It's madness me even saying this, that because we haven't. It's not even a bad form. We drew to Everton. We qualified for our Champions League, and we lost to the best team in the Premier League at home anyway this season. But it's just, my concern is it's going to become a mental thing now, that they're going to worry about backing themselves and having the confidence to sort of push on from here, if that makes sense. Because if Chelsea on Monday's a bad result, what happens then? Does Twitter and the media just blow up and people start getting on each other's backs? Maybe I don't know. That's just my concern.
It is a worry. We definitely need to beat the Chavs. If Stoke can put 3 past them. And actually, my stepdad's a Chelsea fan, and he phoned me this morning after watching Match of the Day, which was great with Thierry on it. But he phoned me and said, I saw the result yesterday and thought it was a complete mauling. But actually, when you watch the highlights back, that could have easily been 6-6. So it's one of those.
Easily.
Yeah,
it's several chances.
We just got to hope, like you say, it doesn't affect us mentally, and we can get a result against Chelsea and have a nice Christmas.
I think that this team. I think that there's a strength that they didn't have maybe in seasons past. And I mean, if you look at the Old Trafford result, which is really disappointing. I mean, take the flu shot kind of scandal out of it, and the fact that we had key players that were sick. The City game, there were it's hard to even count the number of horrible decisions that just went against us. I mean, just every single time it was, whether it was a bad tackle, no yellow cards given. Toure, with that, he should have probably been sent off for that tackle. Who is it on?
Giroud.
Yeah, on Giroud. And then all the offsides decisions, and then the first goal even was, a corner off a ball that really should have been an offsides. Just it's unlucky. Those things they count against you. Like Wenger said, the referee, they had a bad day. We can't blame it on them. But in a sense, that really does change the direction of a game. I mean, when you 2-1, and you get a couple of bad decisions against you, and it just swings everything. So that you're really fighting, 12 or 13 or 14 people instead of just 11.
Yeah, and it's not just one bad decision, is it? It was.
No, it was. There were countless decisions. It's almost like it's a classic case for why we need to have some kind of technology. I think managers need to have referrals, 2 or 3 a game. Like in a cricket match, and crucial offsides decisions or goals or the penalty thing. Milner, that call, all of those things, you need to be able to review them and
it was very dubious, wasn't it, that penalty?
I think Aspelog had something really interesting to say. He said if for a penalty in the box, if the player falls because of the contact that is made, then it should be a penalty. But if the player is already falling over and then the contact is made, and when Milner kicked Szczesny as he was trying to withdraw his foot, there's no way that Szczesny caused the player to fall. Then it should be simple, And it's a good way of looking at it, you know.
Yeah, that is a good point.
If the contact happens on the way down, it's not contact.
Yeah,
you know.
that's true.
Yeah.
But the game is played at such a fast speed. I was watching the Spurs game this afternoon with my uncle, and that's how I got into Arsenal, but that's a different story. But he was sitting and he was like, "It's so fast now," because he doesn't have Sky. So when he comes over to my parents, he's straight in front of the TV. But the game is so fast now. Like it's his words. I don't know how the referees can keep up with this because I'm struggling to keep up with this. And he's only 60 odd. So, but I think that's well said, Paul.
Well, you know, watching on TV actually is harder, you know, because your eye has to go where the camera is dictating. I mean, the thing that I loved about watching the live game, and whether I'm watching rugby or whatever it is here, is the fact that you're sitting in the stands and you can see the defenders moving, even though there's attack going. You can see how Ozil drifts off to the sideline, you know, quietly loses a defender and creates this huge amount of space. You don't see that. The camera is just showing, you know, Bentner's floppy, you know, hairdo.
Quickly finish your sentence. I don't know, but I think we just have to. You can't always blame other things. You've got to remember that we gave it away at the end of the day. We gave them the
we
third.
still had the opportunities, didn't we?
And that's what I think. You can't go down the route of blaming the referees because we gave them the third when we were on top, and then we gave them the fourth in exactly the same situation. And it was just schoolboy after schoolboy error, and they've got to eradicate that if they're gonna want a challenge for the title. That's what they've got to get rid of. We can't be. But I don't know. But as you said about missing chances, it was interesting that the Giroud backlash on Twitter, people sort of slating him. What's your view on him and the whole sort of?
I think for me, he was certainly a lot better than he was against United. You know, he was actually getting into the positions, and you know, although he wasn't tucking them away other than the supposedly offside one, he was actually getting into positions. And I do love Giroud. He's been absolutely immense this year, and you know, I've only got praise for him, but I think it does show that if you had a more clinical striker on the end of some of those chances, it would have been a different story.
Oh, amen. That the one where it came across and he sort of I don't know, what did he do? He slid on his backside, didn't he? And he shanked it into the sky, and then you see like 2 minutes before Aguero doing that almost like sweet chin music volley into the roof of the net, and you think, oh my god.
Yeah. But you know, the thing about Giroud is so often he's isolated up front, you know, and he does a brilliant job of trapping the ball.
Yes.
You know, he wins a lot of fouls. You know, when there's a long ball up to him, he either gathers it and keeps it and lays it off, or he wins a foul. But I think this is kind of part of our problem, is that he'd be a perfect player for somebody, we've talked about this before, for somebody that has the desire to run off of his flicks or because he is really quick. I mean, he's surprisingly nimble for a big guy.
Yeah.
And you can see the intention behind his little one touches or his head, you know, like head flick-ons. And yesterday, none of those were going anywhere. And players were looking at him in frustration when actually it's kind of the other way around. I mean, a striker that would play off the shoulder of somebody like Giroud, like a Suarez, for instance, it would be a gift on a plate, you know?
And
it's not
on the
happening.
halfway line at the Emirates, Paul, and you can really see that. You know, he jumps up and he wins these headers, and nobody's running in behind expecting him to win the header, and he does it kind of 3 or 4 times, and you think, you know, fair play to the guy, because a lot of other people would just stop doing it because nobody's making those runs that you're talking about.
Right, and you know, he was so close. I mean, a couple of the misses yesterday, they were, you know, inches. That head flick. I mean, it's the guy's there. I mean, him and Ramsey not scoring obviously hasn't kind of helped us. I think that, you know, the fact that they're both been a bit frustrated in the last couple of games has kind of made our results, skewed them a little bit. But the point is that we do need somebody, and I think Theo coming on for his first start And as much as I'm shouting at him and going, "What are you doing? You're not defending. You're not attacking. You kind of he hovers around this middle ground, you know." And then suddenly he'll go and like as soon as I criticize him, he loops a perfect kind of Henry-esque goal.
Oh, man.
That was a finish, wasn't it? That one, yeah, the second goal. Oh.
It's one of the best goals he's ever scored for us, I think.
Yeah,
I think so,
I think considering the circumstances, it will go under the radar. But that was an absolute sublime finish.
and considering the height of Pantilimon as well.
Yeah,
I know, what, 7'2" or something.
He's huge, isn't he?
Just loops.
He makes Mertesacker look like Cazorla, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
But speaking of Giroud, if only going back to the Everton game, that strike at the end, that was one hell of a technique, and if that would have gone in.
Again, that's something that's gone under the radar. If that goes in, that's one of those like mega moments that will change a player. If that nestles in the roof of the net, we've got 3 points against Everton, and then we go into the Napoli game on a high. Maybe that's a different result, and then we go into City, to use an Arsenal term, with a handbrake off, and we can go and enjoy the game rather than the pressure and feeling tired. And the mental side is such a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is a big deal. But I think the main point, and I mentioned this to you guys before we started recording, is that this is one of 38 games. The points count equally as Hull or Crystal Palace or whatever. You know, 3 points or no points. And I think that Arsene Wenger, it's such a central part of his. You know, every time, whether we're on top or we're behind or whatever, he's always like, "Listen, we just focus on the next game and we move on." And I think that, you know, I do believe that he's got a bunch of players that kind of will subscribe to that view. You know, it's City at home. If we'd lost 6-3 at the Emirates, I think things, you know, might be a little different. But we played them on their turf. They haven't lost there since they got the stadium or something, right? Are they unbeaten there for? I don't know.
It's an impressive record, yeah.
Yeah, so
like 50 goals in 12 games or something as well.
That's ridiculous. They've averaging 3 goals at home over the last like handful of fixtures or something, because they got 6 against obviously us, Spurs, 7 against Norwich, 4 against United. They're fantastic considering they line up as Paul's already mentioned, but as they line up as a 4-4-2. They're so fluid and interchanging. It's interesting because where they leave so much space in our sort of final sort of third-ish for sort of Toure to come flying through like a tank. And at first I was watching the game because I've obviously watched highlights. And I was thinking, why are they leaving so much space there? What are they doing? And then all of a sudden someone comes flying through the middle of it and you go, I see now.
Yeah.
I was so oblivious.
Speaking of Toure, in the 96th minute, when you're winning 5-3 and your central midfield partner's already got 2 goals, why didn't Fernandinho take the penalty?
Don't know. That's a strange. But actually, do you know what? This is my biggest bugbear with Giroud, is that I can't understand why a centre forward doesn't want to take a penalty.
I think he does. I mean, do you remember the one that Arteta took against? I think it was Everton last season, and Giroud had scored 1 or 2, and he was. I mean, he could have headed that ball in, you know, from the penalty spot. he was that on form that day, and I think Arteta ended up, you know, kind of fluffing it, and I can just. You know, you could see Giroud's frustration, but I mean, he's number 3, I think, on the list. You know, we've got Arteta, then Ozil, and then Giroud.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why Podolski doesn't tape them, because he could hit it straight at the keeper and still hit it right through him.
Yeah,
you know,
just take a massive run up.
Injured.
Yeah.
He'll hopefully be back, won't he? Because he's just fitness is his issue, isn't it? And we've got 8 days.
Yeah.
That if Wilshere gets suspended for the
the one finger salute.
Yes, at the City fans, that could be a blessing in disguise, because it may give Santi or Podolski some time on the pitch, and I'm very, very intrigued to see his link up with Ozil and then freeing up space for Walcott on the right hand side, because we can get carried away with wanting to sign players. I know I do it myself. I love a transfer story and a rumour, and I get carried away with it. But we haven't really seen what this team's like limit is, if that makes sense, because we've missed like Chamberlain, Podolski. We haven't seen them in full flight, and I kind of want to see them before I start saying, "Oh, I want them to do this, I want them to do that."
Yeah.
But we're edging close to January, aren't we? So, is he going to wait, or do you think is he going to stick, or is he going to twist?
I heard some rumor that they were changing the cup tie rule. That if you bought a player in January, that had played, and that the cup tie thing wouldn't stand anymore. I don't know if that's for this season or if it's something they're talking about for other, for following season. But that would be really interesting if that did happen.
Yeah, that would put a whole different spin on the transfer window, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but let's face it. I mean, if we were just Suarez, I mean, I was really into him in the last transfer window, and I did quite a big article on him, and I got a lot of backlash, people saying he was just a bitey racist, and I was trying to say, well, I'd still rather have a bitey racist if it was Suarez in my team. I think now he'd probably be 105, 110 million.
His price tag's gone up, isn't it?
Yeah, what's he got? Ridiculous goal scoring. I mean, it was like ballet today. Sorry, watching them play against Spurs. He's in a class of his own right now.
He's their sort of Ozil, isn't he? Like they're placebo. It's the wrong word, but you get my gist. He just makes everyone else just come alive, don't they? And it's that because today they're running, weren't they? And they're four sort of fluid attackers. And Spurs, I don't know why they play a high line. It's ridiculous with Michael Dawson at centre half. It's just, it's utterly ridiculous every time.
He's just being stubborn. He tried to do that with Chelsea too, And,
with John Terry as well. You can't play high line with defenders like that. But no, it's utterly ridiculous. But I don't know. I suppose that would be my hope, is that a mobile forward player that we can play in there. Really.
You were talking about hoping to have a team that's flying, with Podolski back and Chamberlain and stuff. But for me, the biggest loss yesterday is Koscielny. That gash on his knee is just looks horrendous. I can't. I'd love it to be just a flesh wound in the Monty Python kind of sense of it, but no, not in the Monty Python sense.
Yeah. Go on, sorry, Paul.
That's a bit. But it looks way more serious than just a knee cut. I mean,
it looked pretty horrific from the photos. I was going to say that also could be a blessing in disguise, because it would give Vermaelen some more time on the pitch. Because I thought when he came on, he looked all right, to be honest.
No, he was decent, except for that one cross that Nacho. I mean, Nacho was. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was City being elusive or Nacho just being kind of neglecting his duty. But every time the ball went down the right, the guy had 30 seconds. It seemed to plan everything.
He defends so narrowly, and then he's completely exposed by Wilshere. And it's like, do you remember the Tottenham through ball for Bale last season, when everyone was sort of slagging him off? Because again, we tried to play a high line with Bale and Lennon, and it was ridiculous. But he defends so tight to the centre half; it gives so much freedom for a pass through. But he needs cover, and he needs to build up a relationship with the other defenders around him. It's like when Mertesacker came in last season. Granted that he didn't have a pre-season and he wasn't fully fit, but he didn't know Sanya, and he didn't know what he was all about. And I sort of feel that about Nacho as well, watching him, because I'm a massive fan. I think he's fantastic, but
I think he's great.
I don't think he's got a relationship yet with there's three players that play around with him, if that makes sense. And
and you're going to need game time to do that. And I think, when I saw his name on the team sheet, I wasn't fussed, because actually he's been in really good form this year. And I think, if Gibbs was there, would it have made a huge difference? Probably not.
No, I don't. I think it's Wilshere on the left, which is the problem.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Gibbs, though, is he just has that ability to throw himself, into a block or a.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't count the number of times that he's thrown his body on the line and stopped a goal or a cross or whatever. There's an element about him that, when it counts, somehow he manages to do the right thing. I mean, especially
apart from against Everton.
Yeah, apart from against Everton. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But at the same time, Gibbs, you give him the ball and he immediately looks square or back. It's like he just doesn't seem to have that. Except when he was playing with Podolski, there was a run of a few games where he and Podolski were 1-2ing and running around each other and
Against
causing
Liverpool.
absolute. But
They were
for a few.
building a good relationship, weren't they, down the left?
Yeah, they were causing havoc, and we normally such a right-sided kind of attacking team, whether it was Sanya or Walcott or. It was interesting to see, but it was, it's frustrating. But I did feel like yesterday, the whole team seemed to take about a second or two more on the ball to make the right decision. They were second behind each pass. They were, and obviously they weren't all playing against Napoli, so we can't count the fatigue thing.
No.
Except, maybe when 4 out of 11 players have got fatigue, maybe the whole thing just gets out of sync.
Yeah, well, it is mental. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's when we go ahead or we were getting back into it, we were just throwing it away, and it kept happening, didn't it? And then it just must have got to a point where they were like, we've got nothing in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sort of bringing on Nabry and Benter, that must be a blow to the other players around them. Obviously, Nabry, I thought he was excellent when he came on, but it's not like you're bringing someone on and they're going to go, oh, God, we got a chance now. Let's give this it's like a second wind, isn't it? And I don't know.
And the opposition aren't going to go, oh, crap.
No, exactly.
They weren't exactly impact subs. The only impact was like, oh, okay, that's all you've got.
He's going for the shock effect, isn't he? Like, throw them into.
We're going to bring on Park and Miyachi,
yeah, really throw it. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. It's a bad day at the office. Office.
Yeah, and I think, Paul, just a minute ago, you made like a noise, and that reminded me, Ben, after the Everton game when we met at the end of the final whistle, and we just went, that was all we could say.
Just looked at each other.
And it was funny, because it happened yesterday, but in the Everton game, we went 1-up, and it was just like a classical old Arsenal where you go 1-up and then 2.5 minutes later, you've thrown away this lead. And against City, my hopes rose constantly in that game. I honestly thought that we could at least get a point out of it and actually maybe somehow squeeze a win. We were starting to get it together. And then every time we scored, 2 minutes later, boom. And then maybe 2 minutes after that again, another boom. But, it's just frustrating. Those are things that they always say you're most, what is it? Vulnerable just after scoring,
goal, yeah.
And but it just, and yesterday, honestly, if you look at the minute counts of the score, it's like, Arsenal goal, 35 minutes, 37 minutes, City goal, Arsenal goal, 63 minutes, 65 minutes, 2 City goals, it's like.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
And I think Wilshere was a good barometer of how frustrating it was, because even halfway through the first half, he was flapping his arms around and lying on the floor, and
he
didn't want to come back. He didn't want to come back and defend.
No.
A lot of those goals towards the end, that being exposed was just everyone kind of trotting back and leaving Mertesacker and Vermaelen or Koscielny or whoever it was at the time, to try and cover 4 or 5 blue shirts that are just running circles around you.
Yeah, it was a bad day in the office from Jack. Straight away the volley at the start that would have gone off for a throwing when it was quite a good opportunity for him to.
Oh God, I got quite excited about that. I thought that was going to go in. I don't know.
But he did have that scorcher from outside the box. There was he punted one. Almost didn't stop it, and it was going straight at him. So
yeah. Okay, well, we're kind of reaching the end there, guys. But before we finish off, if you haven't had a chance to, it's been on ITV4 a couple of times now. See if you can catch it. It's Keane and Vieira, The Best of Enemies. It's quite a good show, actually. They're basically the two of them sat opposite each other, chatting about wiping each other out each time they play against each other.
I read about that. Yeah,
it's quite a good watch. And at the end, they because they pick like Vieira picks his best Arsenal team that he's played with,
Yeah.
11 players. Keane picks his best 11 Man U that he's played with, and then they try and interlink and make a best 11 out of the two teams.
I'm shocked Bergkamp didn't make it.
Yes, I know, but it
I
was
even thought
He didn't. Bergkamp didn't make the combined 11.
no.
Or?
Vieira
No.
was saying, "I can't believe we can have a team without Bergkamp," and Keane said, "I can't believe we can have a team without Van Nistelrooy." And the only position that they didn't come to a consensus on really was left back, where Vieira had Ashley Cole. That's the first time I haven't called him Cashley in a long time. And Keane had Irwin, so they had to have both of them in. And I really can't see how you can have Irwin.
12 players.
Yeah.
That's cheating.
But no, it's a good watch. So if you get a chance, I'd have a look at that. Is there anything either of you want to say before we close off, Ben?
I really think we need to beat Chelsea.
Yeah.
To point out the obvious, but we just need 3 points from that. I'm just, as I've mentioned already about 5 times, I'm worried mentally if we lose to Chelsea, what that will do to us. One of the most annoying things so far is that in all the big games, we've been found wanting, and you can't really get away from that, I'm afraid. So I hope we get the 3 points, please, Arsenal.
Yep.
Yeah,
Paul?
me too. No, just a funny aside. If this comes out soon enough, with the Tottenham collapse, there've been a lot of Spurs Twitter fans, slagging off on @AVB. Which is some young girl in New York, and she won Twitter for me tonight because she replied to every one of them with like lyrics from a song, or like some really like arbitrary, innocuous kind of reply to this really horrendous
Oh, that's great. I'm gonna
treatment she was getting. It's so funny. It's @AVB. You should check it out. She definitely she made my night. It was funny. But yeah, also just. There's 22 more games to go, and they're not all against top teams. And I think if we can just keep consistency, and if we can grab a couple of points off of the top guys, that's great. But if we can carry on doing what we do to the teams below us, then we'll do well. We will, because the other teams competing for the title have also dropped points against lesser teams, and we've actually kind of done pretty well, against the Cardiffs and the Southamptons. I think those teams are going to trip up a lot of the bigger teams. So we just need to move on, brush it off, be positive.
No, just quickly, can I jump in, Steve? When's the Champions League draw?
Monday, tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Right,
Yeah.
Pick a team. Who do you want to play? Quickly, say one team.
PSG.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to see a big team. Selfishly, you go to the Emirates to see these big games. That's what we're in the Champions League for. So, yeah, PSG would be good. Real Madrid, maybe. I haven't seen either of those live.
Or revenge with Barcelona, because they're kind of, they've got some Achilles heels we might be able to exploit.
Yeah, while Messi's out. Let's play them while Messi's out.
Yeah.
Let's do it, yeah.
How about you, Ben? Who do you want?
I was sort of thinking about it today. I want Atletico Madrid. Very organised, but I can't see. I'm probably going to regret this, but I can't see like a cheap player like Madrid, Ronaldo, PSG, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and even Cavani, I guess. But Madrid have got Atletico Madrid. That is, have got some very, very good players, but not a cheap one. So I'd like Atletico Madrid, please.
Okay.
All right.
That's a good shout. Before we finish off, I think I'll agree with everything you said. I would love us to beat Chelsea. I think their luck's got to run out somewhere along the line. And my stepdad and my brother are Chelsea fans, so for me to have a nice Christmas, I'd like to stuff the Chavsky. And also, while we were talking about officials, actually, I feel quite sorry for Steve Clarke, because if you think back to that Chelsea game where Chelsea got that penalty right at the end, that was never a penalty. He'd probably still be in a job if it weren't for that.
Yeah.
And actually, before we do finish off, I can't remember where I read it. One of you two might have seen it, but somebody wrote something, I think it was, about Ozil, and how because he's the kind of like the big stellar signing, there's quite a lot on his shoulders, whereas usually he is the guy just happily going about his stuff in the background, setting up other stars. So if we make another star signing, it would probably help him. And I thought that was quite a good shout, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
Well, until next time, thank you both very much. Suburban
Thank
Gooners
you,
out.
guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.